Kyle's on, Jim, if you want to join him. This is where you.
Oh, sorry, I missed Kyle's link there. Okay, Council President Arcaro, it is streaming live and it is recorded, so we're ready to begin.
Shine your phone now.
Okay.
Okay, very good. County City Council for April 27, 2020 is now in session. Please call the roll. Pam, can you hear me?
Got it now. It didn't turn on.
Okay, roll call, please.
Yes, Council President, Mr. Arcaro,
Present.
Mr. Emery,
Here.
Mr. Gaw,
Here.
Mr. Kozeski, Mr. Kozeski,
Tommy, you have to unmute.
you have to unmute.
Here.
Okay. Mrs. Ledford,
Here.
Mrs. McVoy,
Here.
Mr. Moiseo,
Here.
City Manager, Mr. Hockaday,
Here.
Finance Director, Mr. Williams,
Here.
Law Director, Mr. Smith.
Okay, please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance to the flag. Pledge allegiance to the flag
Flag.
of the United States of America, to the republic which it stands, one nation, indivisible,
indivisible,
justice for all.
liberty and justice for all. I was.
Okay, I was hoping to have Reverend Scott Walsh on with us tonight for the invocation. Apparently, Due to technical difficulties, he didn't make it. So we will move on to approving the meeting minutes of April 13th, 2020. Are there any alterations or corrections? If not, is there a motion?
I'll make a motion.
Motion by Mr. Mosier,
I second.
seconded by Mr. Kozeski.
Mr. Arcaro,
Yes.
Mr. Emery,
Yes.
Mr. Goff,
Yes.
Mr. Kozeski,
Yes.
Mrs. Ledford,
Yes.
Mrs. McVoy,
Yes.
Mr. Moiseo.
The meeting minutes for April 13, 2020 have been approved. Move on to awards presentation. And tonight we have another Employee of the Month award in absentia. And this month we're doing a co-employee of the month out of the Housing and Zoning Department. And that is Melanie Shubatowski and Jean Requa. If you could read the certificate into the record.
Each month, Conneaut City Council honors and recognizes an employee of the City of Conneaut as the Employee of the Month. The employee is selected by the department head based upon the employee's dedication and service to the city and its citizens. The Employee of the Month exhibits certain qualities such as dedication, willingness to help others, encouragement, motivational, and all other qualities that make the employee a true representative of the city.
Okay, thank you and congratulations to our employees of the month for April. Now move on to communications.
Yes, I have two this evening. One, we did receive a thank you from Jeffrey Vibbert, who was the Employee of the Month for March, thanking council and the city for the honor. Also, we received a citizen advisory dated April 23rd from the Ohio EPA in regards to a public meeting that is scheduled for May 7th in regards for Petnam USA Inc. It advises that Ohio EPA will hold an online public meeting and hearing to accept public comments on a draft air pollution permit for Petman USA Inc.'s proposed facility in Ashtabula. If approved, the permit would replace the existing air permit and is being considered due to design changes at the facility. The webinar will begin at 6 p.m. on Thursday, May 7th, 2020. The EPA will accept written electronic comments on the draft air permit to install through May 11th. Written electronic comments must either be submitted through the webinar application or via email. Mailed comments cannot be accepted at this time due to the EPA's limitations on receiving physical mail due to the COVID-19 pandemic. Anyone may submit comments or request to be on the mailing list for information. Written electronic comments may be submitted by email to anthony.becker, B-E-C-K-E-R, @epa.ohio.gov. That is all.
Okay, thank you. Does council have any communications? Okay, if not, we will move on to reports of our administration, beginning with the city manager, Mr. Hockaday.
Thank you, Council President Arcaro. If you can give me 1 second here, what I'll do is I'm actually going to share the screen with the report. You guys can all see it. Just a couple quick updates. We continue to have some coordinating meetings around the county, speaking with various elected officials, all three health departments. All three health departments, as well as the other cities and various agencies such as county EMS and county EMA. We participate on these calls 3 times a week. And once we discuss some of the emerging issues, as you may or may not have been aware, everyone read, I believe, the news reports regarding Saybrook Landing. There are some additional cases identified in another long-term care facility in Geneva as well. And we have a report of an issue inside Lake Erie Correctional from today. So we're continuing to see spread, particularly amongst large institutions, and we'll continue to move resources as we need to support those institutions, make sure that they can handle it. Obviously, there's various state agencies, particularly with the Correctional Institute on the east side, including ODH and ODRC. So we'll keep our fingers crossed, and also continue to monitor the situation there, have regional discussions, and to provide any services that we can in support of them. Obviously, everyone, I believe, is somewhat aware of what the governor has stated today in a kind of phased reopening. I've yet to see the written order. Obviously, I heard what he had to say, seen various kind of recompositions of that, but we will have to continue to monitor that situation. So a couple of things that I'd like to point out. First and foremost, our Conneaut Creek dredge material facility is underway, and we are continuing to have kind of next steps discussions regarding insurance, regarding our final design. As we do that, we are moving forward. So just so you know, I just want to make sure everybody is aware of that, and that we can move forward. The Parrish and Chamberlain Road is completed. Their final pay app is due to be submitted any day now. The wind turbine, as I think everybody knows, was taken down. That's been completed. I anticipate the final pay app sometime this week. The CDBG-CI, the I-90 and Mill Street water lining project is complete. The pay app 1 has been processed. We're waiting on the final pay app for that. ODOT Route 534 or 531 and Route 7 has been awarded. And that's been awarded to Roniak Paving. There was some pre-construction. They're going to be doing some MOT plans. I expect that to kick off here in June. So other kind of upcoming things, I wanted to share that I think we've come to the best possible arrangement regarding the Key Bank parking lots. We have a final red line. We'll be submitting that to council this week. So, just be cognizant of that. We'll email you what that is. Ultimately, they're going to buy the property, that just the footprint of the drive-through area. The tentative agreement that we were presenting to council will be $5,000 plus their cost of closing, and any survey work will all be theirs. I think that is the easiest and most straightforward solution that doesn't involve demolition and other things that are going to be coming. So you'll see that coming to council as well. The phase 1 on the dredge contract, which our preliminary plans are about 80% complete for capping the site and installing kind of some phase 1 pieces, which include the outfall and other stormwater control devices on the property. So that piece is moving forward. Chestnut and Middle, we have a final resurfacing contract. We've sent that to the schools. They said they're fine with the design. Obviously, there's some up costs in there, including some sidewalk that would have to be replaced, some driveway aprons and whatnot. So we're discussing that with the schools. I'm hoping to have a more detailed discussion with Lori Riley, hopefully sometime maybe this week, and get that out so it is ready to go out for bid. So we are moving forward with those. Waterline phase 2, just so you know, Waterline phase 2 is moving forward as well. And as soon as we have that Waterline phase 2 done, we will present that to council. What that is looking like at this juncture is, originally we were going to attach onto the piece that finished next to the cemetery and continue to head west. We've had continual problems with the intermediate line that was not replaced between the Parish Road intersection and where we started at Gore Road. I think our recommendation at this point is going to be to replace that segment, as we know it's in the full depth repair zone. Chris Kagelnik, our rep from CT Consultants, will have a preliminary on that. We've done various tests on it, and we cannot get the old line to operate at the volume capacity that we need it to. So we're going to make a recommendation to council at our coming work session that we replace that segment of the line, still using the OPWC project monies, and replace that segment, which we deem is kind of worse than the other section. So we'll see that coming out here probably for our next work session. We'll be able to share drawings and estimates and so on and so forth. So that's my administrative report for now, unless there are any questions.
Yes, Mr. Hockaday, two things. On the Parish Road project, there's still a number of road construction signs, warning motors that haven't been taken down yet.
Yeah, and they'll have some punch list items that they have to clean up. Those will come down. They haven't submitted their final pay app yet, but the work is substantially complete.
Okay. And then on the Lake Road paving project, I know that the D-Day committee is right now in contemplation whether they're going to move forward with the D-Day event. And should that happen, I just want to make sure that the construction company is aware of their timeline and will work to make it a safe transition in that area.
Yes, they are aware. We have the same project manager from ODOT, Mr. Jonathan Dutt. I think Jonathan's an excellent managing engineer, and he's well aware of the D-Day events. We are proceeding with this construction project with the understanding that D-Day is going to happen, regardless of what the D-Day committee ultimately decides to do in the interest of public health and safety. So our assumption is that, and a week after D-Day is school anyway, so we need to make sure this project is cleared and out of the way.
Very good. Does anybody else have any questions or comments for the city manager? Okay, if not, we'll move on to the finance director, Mr. Williams.
Thank you, Mr. Arcaro. I had sent council an email, I believe about a week or two ago, about a $1.6 billion dividend that was going to be issued by the governor's office and the Ohio Bureau of Workers' Comp. I did send council a copy of a refund check that we received from the Ohio Bureau of Workers' Comp for $62,789. That was issued on 4/13. On 4/23, we received a check from the Ohio Bureau of Workers' Comp for a dividend payment of $140,940.45. This is due to strong investment returns and prudent fiscal financial management from the Ohio Bureau of Workers' Comp, and they are sharing this with private and public employers. We probably will receive an additional refund later on in the year, but right now the total refunds and dividends received from Ohio Bureau of Workers' Comp is $203,730.26. Now, we paid our workers' comp premium in January. It was $179,111. So we actually received all of that back and an additional $24,619. Now, this refund will be allocated as it was paid. So of this $203,730, about $113,000 or 55% will be receipted into the general fund. About $23,500 goes back to Public Works, about $25,000 to sewer, and $27,000 to water. So I just wanted to update you on that payment from the Bureau of Workers' Comp. As far as our cash position, right now we have about, excuse me, about $5.4 $1.44 million in unexpended balance. Year to date, we've receipted in about $4.99 million. That's out of a $22.1 million estimate. So we've collected about 22% of what we anticipated at this point. Year to date expenses are about $4.8 million, or about 21% of the budgeted $23.4 million in appropriations, combined appropriations, and those are appropriations that included purchase orders or encumbrances from the prior year, is about $24 million. So out of that amount, we have about $4.1 million invested. We have about $1.5 million that is used for operations in two of our general checking accounts. And total is around $5.44 million. The other thing I wanted to mention quickly is that our audit is getting a late start this year. I was notified by our auditors that they will be here on Monday. Normally they're here before that, but due to the COVID and various things that have been going on, they were not able to start as early as they had liked. We have to have GAAP financial reports reported to the state by May 31st. That is our deadline, and we have to have an audited report by June 30th. Now, I don't know, due to the COVID, if they are going to give us some type of extension. I hope they do. If not, we'll be working on a very tight timeline here. So that's all I have at this point. If anyone has any questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
Mr. Arcaro, I have a question for Mr. Williams.
Yes.
Mr. Williams, would it be fair to say our current revenue based on our month to date from 2019 till now, would it be fair to say that we are down in our collections and our revenue?
No, actually we're not. We're a little ahead of last year at the same time. So we're actually doing pretty well right now. I think there's going to be a lag, as I said at our last meeting. I think the revenue is, we're going to see a dip in revenue. I don't know how bad it's going to be. I know income tax, obviously, due to the extension to July, although we had 2 crates full of mail that was processed these past couple weeks. People that decided to file by the April 15th deadline, even though they weren't required to, but there's still a lot of tax revenue that is anticipated. But as I said, I think there's going to be a delay or a lag in the collections. How much it's going to be, I don't have a way of estimating that at this point. I just monitor it closely and see how the revenue is coming in, and I'll apprise council probably on a bi-weekly or monthly basis.
So as of right now, even with the year to date from 2019 to 2020, we really haven't seen any drop, so to speak.
No, we have not.
Okay.
No.
Okay.
Okay, are there any other questions from Mr. Williams? Okay, if not, we'll move on to the law director, Mr. Smith.
Let's see here. Oh, it's, I think I'm on.
You are.
Can it? Oh, terrific. I don't know how that happened. Thank you. A couple things. First and foremost, my paralegal, Jen Hoover, is the proud mother of a baby girl, Marilla, who was born on April 17th. So she'll be out now for a 12-week period for FMLA. And Molly, who is the other assistant in the office, has been doing a good job in terms of keeping track of the criminal, as well as some of the civil cases going on. The criminal cases started to lag shortly after the shutdown, and unfortunately they started to pick up. So we've been having a number of virtual preliminary hearings, I think, and a number of other criminal cases going before the Conneaut Municipal Court. And I think we're on top of that. We are working more so now with the Board of Health than we have for quite a while because of the shutdown orders and enforcing the governor's orders in terms of stay at home. To date, I think we have charged at least 4 people with violations of the stay at home order. And we will continue to monitor businesses as well as other people that are subject to that order and may not be complying. I just sent Mr. Hockaday and Mr. Williams a copy of a very good summary as to what the governor's order did today. And I will try to make sure that gets out to everyone tomorrow as well. On the civil front, we have a number of cases that are pending. First of all, there's City versus Henderson, which is at 294 Harbor Street. We're having some trouble with service on these people, but I think we will manage to take care of that here in the next few weeks. We did file a drug house case on 471 Liberty Street. You may have seen the house is boarded up. There's been some discussion about a buyer for the property, and we are working with the buyer in the building department and the city housing department to come up with a timetable and checks so that if the sale does go through, certain conditions have to be met before we proceed to demolition. The other case we have is the people over on Ackerman and Harbor Street. We did file a civil injunction against them in late March. We have an injunction hearing coming up on May 26th. And we are, in fact, I met today with Taylor Cleveland and Melanie, and we had the former zoning manager, Janet, also in a conversation. So we will have that also ready to go on the 26th. So I think that covers it. We've actually been remarkably busy considering some of the things going on. So any questions?
Any questions for the law director? Okay, if not, thank you. Now move on to reports of any committees.
President Arcaro, I just have one for the Conneaut Conventions and Visitors Bureau. They had a meeting on April the 14th, and that was held Zoom. So it was, of course, just like what we're doing for social distancing purposes. And they just wanted everyone to know that they are still up and moving and operating. I think the biggest thing that they wanted us to know about, and everyone in the community, was the MS Bike Run is going to be canceled this year, physically to the location, but they are still going to do something virtually. So the CCDB will let us know about that, but that's really all they had to report for us this month.
Okay. Any questions for Mrs. McFoy? Okay, does anybody else have a report from a committee? If not, we'll move on to liaison reports. Okay, I do have a liaison report from the Port Authority. And the couple of the highlights from the Port Authority are that the Tourism Board would like to install a large sign with the city's name at the public dock. And they are working in conjunction with the Tourism Board, the Convention and Visitors Bureau, to find an appropriate location for that sign. It's going to be similar to, I'm sure you've all seen the large sign in Cleveland. It says the city's name on their lakefront. It'll be very similar to that. They're still hoping to hit their May 1st opening target date with all the marinas. However, they did have some damage with last week's storm that they're trying to mitigate. And also the new business on Welton Road, Conneaut Creek Float Fly, is also moving ahead with their target opening date, and looking forward to that. Finally, they did receive a $36,000 Small Business Association loan, which is forgivable, and that'll definitely help out with their budget. And that's all I have from the Port Authority. Okay, moving on to our legislation tonight. We only have one ordinance to consider. And that would be ordinance 2420 in first reading.
An ordinance to amend the 2020 budgets, appropriations, and fund and interfund transfers attached to and marked Exhibit A.
Mr. Williams.
Thank you, Mr. Arcaro. This is a special budget amendment. We had our first quarter budget amendment a few weeks ago. This is a budget amendment for severance pay for two employees that one has resigned from the city and the other is retiring from the city. One is for $2,990. That is for the administrative assistant to the city manager. And there's severance for the court bailiff in the amount of $28,500. And this represents the 60% share that the city's responsible for. So in total, we are increasing general fund appropriations by $31,490. I didn't know if Mr. Hockaday had anything to add to that.
No, the only thing I'm going to do is I'm going to screen share that document really quickly. Everybody can see it. You know, that shows the two amounts. I failed to mention in my report that Antoinette Green, my executive assistant for the past 5 years, accepted a position with the Ashtabula County Metro Parks. And I do want to thank her for her service. And I understand that, you know, she gets to move on to some bigger and better things. And I wish her the best there. We didn't anticipate this at the start of the year. So that was not budgeted for, and that represents, you know, unused vacation time that she had at the time of resignation. So as far as that goes. So I do appreciate Antoinette's efforts for the city of Conneaut, and I wish her the best there. As far as for the courts, you know, the only other items that I would add there is they are retiring under a policy of Judge Carl DeFranco. Judge Irochi has issued a different policy that calculates that amount differently. This was a large sum that was not accounted for, and hopefully that's been remediated moving forward. And I want to also applaud Judge Irochi for assembling and compiling a personnel policy that applies to everyone within the courts. The courts has not previously had a personnel policy. They've relied on segments of city code. So we're happy to answer any questions there regarding the courts. The city does not set policy for the courts. We are responsible for paying for the courts and any shortfalls that they have in their funds. They are separately administrated. They have a separate tax ID in the city. And the same is true with the Conneaut Health Department. They're a related organization, but they are separately governed.
Okay, are there any questions regarding ordinance 2420?
I have a question, Mr. Arcaro.
Mr. Mosio.
The employee, when did they make the announcement to retire? Was that after the first of the year? Is my understanding?
I believe that it was after the first of the year, correct.
So the current policy then would not apply?
Well, the current policy, when they announced it, was in effect at the time they announced it. Yeah.
Okay. All right.
And then it was changed, and then Judge Irochi put a very comprehensive personnel policy together. And it was also reviewed by the finance office for some of the financial details, but it is a very comprehensive policy, very, very well written.
Okay.
But this order was in effect at the time this person declared their intent to retire.
All right. And that answers my question. Thank you.
Okay, you're welcome.
Okay, are there any other questions or comments? I would just like to thank the separating employees retiring and separating for their service to the city. I'll now entertain a motion to proceed with this ordinance.
I'll make a motion.
Mr. Kozowski.
I second the motion.
We'll need a motion to suspend the 3 reading rule, Mr. Kozowski.
Make a motion to suspend the 3 reading rule on ordinance 24-20.
Okay, there's a motion to suspend the 3 reading rule on ordinance 24-20. Is there a second? Mr. Emery, correct?
Second the motion, yes.
Very good.
Mr. Arcaro,
Yes.
Mr. Emery,
Yes.
Mr. Goff,
Yes.
Mr. Kozowski,
Yeah.
Mrs. Ledford,
Yes.
Mrs. McVoy,
Yes.
Mr. Moisia.
Yes.
Mr. Kozowski, the 3 reading rule has been suspended.
I move we act on 24-20.
It's a motion to act on ordinance 24-20. Is there a second?
I second.
Second by Mrs. McVoy.
Mr. Arcaro,
Yes.
Mr. Emery,
Yes.
Mr. Goff,
Yes.
Mr. Kozowski,
Yes.
Mrs. Ledford,
Yes.
Mrs. McVoy,
Yes.
Mr. Moisia.
Yes.
Okay, ordinance 24-20 is passed. Now move on to unfinished and old business. Okay, no unfinished and old business. We'll move on to miscellaneous business. And I have a couple things. First of all, I just want to let the public know that just because we have such a light agenda does not mean that we aren't still working hard for the city. Obviously, we are still operating and will continue to do so during this situation. I would also like to add that with the governor's order today that businesses and individuals are able to start moving about, that we use common sense and continue to listen to the scientists and the experts in this and not political people, because we really need to continue to take this serious. We've had a number of cases in the county and of course in the city as well. So we're far from being out of the woods. So we just need to use some common sense when we're out in public and again, continue to support our local businesses. Anybody else have any? Yes, Mr. Kozowski.
I have a something for Mr. Hockaday. Mr. Hockaday, just prior to the meeting, I received a phone call that in the 700 block of Harbor Street, this would be between Piz Eyes and Orchard Street, there's a sinkhole there, and the city put cold mac on it, and I looked at it, and it appears that the road is being undermined. Evidently, one of the residents said that there was prior utility construction there, and it seems to be washing away underneath the roadway. So Public Works can take a look at that. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Kozowski. We will have them take a look at that tomorrow.
Okay, thank you very much.
Any other miscellaneous business?
I would just like to say something, Mr. Arcaro.
Mrs. Ledford?
I just would like to congratulate our award winners tonight. We need our city employees now more than ever, and it's good to recognize their good deeds. So congratulations to them. And also congratulations to our retiree, and also to Antoinette, who is moving on. Thought she did a great job, and we'll miss her in the office. So congratulations to all. And then I just want to echo what Mr. Arcaro said. You know, let's still be diligent and follow CDC guidelines and try to make all of us safe. That's all I have, Mr. Arcaro.
Thank you. Anybody else for miscellaneous business?
Mr. Arcaro, I realized during the course of my administrative report, I skipped over one element, which was the Bessemer Railroad has announced they're going to be doing some road maintenance at their various crossings through the city of Conneaut. So at the Bessemer Tracks and Middle Road, Bessemer Tracks Old Main, Bessemer Tracks Welton, Bessemer Tracks and Dorman, and Bessemer Tracks in Furnace. They will be doing a series of shutdowns between May 2nd and May 15th. I am attempting, particularly with the Dorman and Furnace Road shutdowns, to see if we can get them to at least alternate those to better serve police, fire, and local residential traffic. I haven't received their response yet, but they are tentatively scheduled for the beginning of May and to persist about 13 to 14 days in total reconstruction time before they're reopened.
Okay. With regard to that, definitely don't want to cause an inconvenience with them closing people in those areas. So if they aren't cooperative, do we have any recourse, Mr. Smith?
Kyle, I unmuted you.
Oh, yeah, thank you. I'm sorry, what was the question again, John?
With what Mr. Hockaday indicated, the construction with the railroad crossings on Bessemer, there's a number of the crossings in that area that if they do them all at once, they're going to essentially cut people off from being able to move in that area and affect police and fire response. So if Mr. Hockaday is working with them to see whether they are going to be cooperative and bear that in mind, if they aren't, do we have recourse in that?
I'd have to look into it. I don't have an immediate answer for you.
Okay.
I would hope that the railroad's been cooperative on other things and that we could at least certainly allow for advanced coordination for emergency vehicles and other traffic.
And especially the public as well.
Yes, yes.
Okay, Mr. Hockaday, you'll stay on top of that.
Yes, so we exchanged several emails today, and I sent a copy of all the closures, including their maintenance of traffic details, to council this evening.
Okay. Mr. Guy, I know it affects your ward especially. Do you have any further?
Well, I know from past other cities, counties, and states, they have told us, NS, when we could close a crossing. And we worked with them and we've got through it. I don't know what our laws of our city are, but I've known that the city has not let me close 2 in a row in Conneaut. That's all I can say. I do not want Furnace and Middle at the same time. You have to go all the way out to Route 7 to get around. That's a pretty long time for a fire truck or an ambulance.
Right, that this is a special circumstance with the Bessemer for sure.
They can do it if they choose to.
Okay. All right, does anybody else have any miscellaneous business?
None.
Okay, if not, you're all looking good, stay well. And I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
I'll make a motion.
I second.
Motion by Mr. Mosio and seconded by Mr. Kozewski.
Mr. Arcaro,
Yes.
Mr. Emery,
Yes.
Mr. Gah,
Yes.
Mr. Kozewski,
Yes.
Mrs. Ledford,
Yes.
Mrs. McBoy,
Yes.
and Mr. Moiseo.
Yes.
Thank you all for zooming in. This meeting is adjourned.